friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Date Like the Movies podcast with your host, Brent Jensen. For this episode, I am pleased to be joined by a good friend of mine all the way from New Zealand, Kesikava. Welcome to Date Like the Movies.
Kia ora, everyone.
Thanks so much for being here. As Kesikava likes to say, she is from the future because there was a 16-hour time time difference from me to her. So Date Like the Movies is now officially a global podcast. We've gone international. So thank you again for joining us all the way from New Zealand. The Greatest Showman is our movie for today's episode. For those of you that maybe haven't seen it, we will probably give you a few spoilers today. So if you care about that sort of thing, make sure you watch the movie before finishing our episode here around The Greatest Showman, which is a fictionalized, or I should say a heavy fictionalized musical about the story of Phineas Taylor Barnum, who goes by the name P.T., played by Hugh Jackman, who rises from nothing, or at least in the worldly sense, nothing, to become the showman and creator of the Barnum and Bailey Circus. The marriage between P.T. and his wife Charity, played by Michelle Williams, is the overarching relationship on display throughout the film. And so we'll focus a lot on their relationship. But the film also stars an amazing cast: Zac Efron, Rebecca Ferguson, Zendaya, Keala Settle. All right, well, Kesikava, let's kick it off by talking about finding the right person. I know you mentioned to me before we started recording that you've been married for 6 years. And in the beginning of The Greatest Showman, we basically see a crash course and a fast forwarding of the relationship between P.T. Barnum and Charity Hallett as they develop feelings as children. And in one moment, she even says to him, quote, "I don't know what my future will be." And he responds, "I do." The relationship continues into adulthood and eventually marriage as well. So Kesikava, curious to kind of kick off our discussion here on how did you and your husband meet?
Well, me and my husband met on Messenger on Facebook. My husband was in the same high school as me, but I didn't know him back in high school. But he knew me through singing because me and my two older sisters would always sing in our high school. Every
Okay.
devotion call, we would always sing, and he would know me. He knows me there. But we met after my mission, 2017. So we met on Messenger. He messaged me, and so we carried on from there. That's how we
That's
met.
Yeah, that's crazy. So he knew you before
But I
then,
didn't. Yeah.
but your high school is probably big enough that you had no
Yeah.
idea who he was. And your husband, now he's not a singer though, I don't believe, correct? So
He's not.
yeah, not a singer. But he's the one that sounds like introduced you to this movie,
Yes,
The
he
Greatest
did.
Showman, right?
He likes listening to the songs in that movie, in The Greatest Showman. And he told me, "Oh, we need to watch this movie together." And that's how I knew the movie from him.
Awesome, very interesting. The question I want to ask you too, kind of going back to the movie, speaking of kind of how they met, and in the movie they meet as children,
Mm.
which is really against the wishes of Charity's parents, because he was from a much lower social class with little money, right, little fame, hardly any wealth, and Charity's dad even tells P.T. Barnum when he's young to stay away from my daughter. And he does not listen to that advice. He continues to pursue her. Eventually, when they become adults, they kind of run off together, get married. But what do you think about the idea of a soulmate? Because the movie kind of makes me think that, are they soulmates? Is that really a thing? And what do
Mm.
you feel about the idea of a soulmate? And do you believe kind of in that or no?
I do believe that everyone has a soulmate. And for me, I truly believe that my husband was and is my soulmate because the way that he fought for his love, because when he tried to come and date me, our tradition, the guy has to come to the parents' house or the girl's house and ask the parents to talk inside our living room with the girl. So they have to first date in our home with our parents inside. So he did that. He took the courage to come, even though my parents haven't met him, but he took the courage to come. And then after our first date, my parents told him off not to come back again. But he kept on coming. He kept on coming, even though my parents didn't like him. But that's how I find it.
That's a, yeah, that is like, I mean, the courage one to show up like
Yes,
that, I think is remarkable. And then to come back, even though your parents don't
yes,
like him, is wild to me.
yeah.
Wow.
But that's how I felt that he was my soulmate. Even though my parents didn't like him, he came back not because of my parents, but because of me. He loved me, that he doesn't want to forget that feeling that he loved me. And he knew right then and there that I was the one for him to marry for eternity.
I find it so fascinating. Do your parents like him now?
They love him. They love him.
Okay. I was hoping that would be your answer.
Yeah, he's like the son next to them. The son they never had.
Was there anything specific that, he did to kind of change their opinions about how they viewed him from not liking to now they love him?
I think more of always my parents could see that he could always check up on me. And even we broke up for 6 months after our first date. But he kept on writing. I blocked him and everything, but he kept on doing another page
No
and
way.
tried to communicate. But yeah, and he would come in for a work visa here. I wasn't on a resident visa here. I was still in a visitor visa. So he came here for work and he would come every week, give some money for my parents while I went back to Tonga. But that kind of uh, softened my parents' heart to see that he worked so hard and still take care of my parents when I am here in Tonga, and me too. He took care of me, send me some money, take care of me in Tonga too at that time.
He was very courageous and very persistent
Yes,
as
very patient
well.
with me as well.
Very patient, a hard worker, and he definitely wanted to be with you.
Yes.
And there's no question about that. And you even blocked him? You said you blocked him and he still found a way
I
to communicate
blocked
to you?
him for the sake of my parents.
We better move on because I could talk all day about this story.
Yeah.
It's really quite amazing to me. I see a lot of similarities too between your husband and to the character in the movie
Hmm.
because he was very persistent. He had a lot of courage with things he did to continue to pursue somebody that her parents, right, did not approve of. So I just see some interesting similarities actually between your story and the
Yes, yes.
movie, which I did not know until now. Is there any advice that you would offer to somebody or that you'd say you could give to somebody who is just really wants to find the right person and they're really struggling with dating and struggling to find that perfect person for them?
Mm. Just knowing that the right person will fight for you no matter what. You would know that that's the right person. You realize that he or she can fight for anything just to have you and to make you see you happy all the time.
Words of wisdom there. I saw you. Is somebody watching you? I can see you looking at somebody.
My husband
It
just came
looks
back from
like,
church.
well, you're speaking his praises. So hopefully he
Yes.
listens to this. Awesome. Well, let's continue on a bit here. The music is fantastic. I enjoy every song, and I watched this movie again recently. And one of the songs early on, as we see the relationship start to unfold early on in the movie, is the song called "A Million Dreams,"
Yes, yes.
and it tells the story of PT and Charity and their connection and their lasting love that they form and this bond that they have. Is there anything that stands out to you most about the relationship between PT and Charity in the early years in the movie?
I think the way Charity defines what happiness is for her, and I can see that their happiness was totally different for both of them. She just wants the whole family to just be together. That's how she finds her happiness. But for him was to find all the worldly things for her and the kids, which is not what Charity wants.
Yeah, she had a quote in there around happiness, and this is when they didn't have any money or they weren't wealthy,
Mm,
they were broke. He just lost his job
yeah.
early in the movie, and to her, happiness was a something that money couldn't buy. That's a great point you brought up. One of my favorite things
Mm,
about their relationship is going back to her is the support that she showed him
yeah.
as he was doing these kind of these crazy ideas he had. And we can talk more about that in a bit too, but that was one thing that initially stood out to me was she was such a supportive wife. One time when PT returns to Charity's home, and this is going back a little bit, he says to her dad, "I don't come for much, but I want your daughter, and it will give her a life as grand as this one."
Mm,
That's a direct quote that PT says to Charity's dad. And they did have a lot of challenges in their relationship throughout the movie. Again, there's that moment early on where he loses his job. So, what do you think a couple can do during trials and serious challenges to grow closer together as opposed to pushing each other farther apart?
yeah. I think the communication is a huge part on marriage life. When we have great communication as a husband and a wife, I think the relationship will go smoother, and everything that is not um or troubling to marriage life, you would discuss it with your partner, and you would feel that you two are in it together when you talk it out instead of shutting it out and trying to be the brave one. That's never worked.
Do you have an example of what good communication looks like to you or something you've seen in your experience?
I think for me was like I said, my husband was very, very patient with me. I was someone that when we got into argument or anything that I dislike in our relationship, I would just shut down, never talk about it, but then it'll pile up on me. And then eventually one day I would just give everything to him. It does affect both of us when I do that. But for him, he is a good communicator for our marriage. Whenever he sees me so silent the whole day, he knows something is wrong. Something with me, I'm upset with something. So he would just talk to me, talk to me, talk to me until I open up. When I open up, that's when everything feels good and our relationship is going and no more stepping back.
Being able to know your partner well enough to observe them like that, I think is
Yeah.
huge because you just shared an example where he's patient, he knows you, he knows when you get silent that you're thinking about things, and he's got the great sense to help you put up because ideally, right, he knows you need that, and he knows um, to have that good communication needs to be supportive and to help you. So I love that. Same night in the movie, PT expresses to Charity, and again, this is he just lost his job, lots of emotions. When individuals and couples experience those types of heartache and challenges. But he says to Charity, quote, "This isn't the life I promised you." And then she tells him that he has everything and tells him to look at their two girls and that Charity wishes for happiness for all of them. And so that goes back to your early point. And something that stood out to you was her definition of happiness and how she viewed that. Because at this point in the movie, it appeared that PT and Charity have different views into what happiness means for each of them. How do you define happiness for you?
I think happiness for me is finding both my husband and my kids happy and satisfied with whatever we have. Yeah, and being satisfied with whatever we have. If we have nothing this week, we are just happy that we have each other. That's the kind of happiness try to teach my kids about.
I'm glad you brought the kids because we're going to talk about the kids because Charity and PT, they do have two girls
Yes.
in their family, and they were a big reason that his circus idea actually takes off. And PT was also able to get a bank loan to help buy the building he wants for his dream of opening a wax museum, right? So he has this idea to open a wax museum, right? Like he's done all this work. He's got a loan for this building he's using, and it's a big flop. No one's buying tickets. No one's coming, except for he sells 3 tickets, and it's his wife buying three tickets for the opening show. I just love that way of her supporting him as he's taking a big risk, and it's something he's really passionate about. Also, do you see any other ways in the movie in which PT and Charity are supporting each other?
I think even when he was went away and going with can't remember her name, singing girl, woman.
Yes, Jenny Lind.
Yeah, even when he went away with her, he she was still supportive. She even though she was sad that he went away, but if that was me, I would full on blown out angry at him for going. But for her, she was still supportive and not make a big problem out of it for him going and leaving them.
What are some things that you think spouses can do to support each other?
Think making sure that what's it called? Can't remember what's the English word for it.
You can say in another language.
When we want something, I can't remember. But when we try to conserve our what we want all the time and always remember our family, we can I think it'll help our family when we don't let our want go in the way of the happiness of our family. When I know that we don't have that, but I still ask my husband for that and keep more and more that I ask for it. Like that's the word that I'm trying to explain. But whatever you have, just be satisfied with it. Because when you wish and want more than what you have, that's what's gonna cause the problem to your family. When you your want and need are more than what you already have with your family, if that makes sense.
Be happy with what you have.
Yes.
And I'm also getting a sense around your answer on the importance of knowing your priorities,
Yes. Yes.
knowing what's most important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And often that's your family or the close people around you, and focusing on that. And if you have that, the other stuff doesn't matter so much. Yeah, I love that. Well, let's talk about the girls because the movie, they have two girls. And as I mentioned, his idea to start a wax museum, not going so well.
Mm-hmm.
Not going so well at all. And so one night, he's tucking the girls in bed. One of them kind of lightly says, or she whispers, "You have too many dead things. You need something alive, something that is sensational,
Mm-hmm.
something that isn't stuffed." And that was a quote from one of his own daughters, which kind of put this idea into his head of, you know what? She's right. And
Mm-hmm.
that was the start of when PT shifts the idea from just having a wax museum to looking for unusual people or unusual performances, such as a bearded lady, a dwarf man, someone who's covered in tattoos, trapeze artists are in there. And that's the beginning of his circus essentially taking off is the idea from one of his own kids. I love that moment in the movie because we're both parents
Mm.
and I see so much that I learn from my own children every day. I just think we can learn so much from kids and our own children, especially. What is something that you feel that we could learn about relationships from children?
Think having the time to listen to what their little opinions. Always take time to listen to their opinions and take time to talk with them. When they give their opinion, take time to talk with them. Why do they have that opinion? Or how did they came up with that opinion? Just having that close relationship with them will not only make us success as a parents, but for them too, as kids in school and in other places.
Showing that you value their opinions and kind of what they're thinking. Something else I've been thinking a lot about lately is kids are the best at forgiving others. I
Mhm.
truly do believe that they can be mad at the neighbor kid, and then 10 minutes later they're best friends.
Yep.
You know, like, I've seen it many times where that's the case,
Yeah.
and where us as adults we tend to more often than we should. We build resentment. We hold grudges longer than children do. And so that's one thing for me. I'm like, oh man, I should definitely try and be as forgiving as children are because they're often the best at that. Yeah, kids are the best and teach me lots on a daily basis for sure. Right? We see it in the movie too. Is they're good examples for their parents. You mentioned the opera singer Jenny Lind. So in the movie, as the success has started taking off, the show and right at the beginning of this circus event has started to become successful. He joins forces with the Zac Efron character. I believe his name is Philip, but he arranges them to go overseas to meet in Europe Jenny Lind, the famous opera singer, and
Mm.
brings her to New York to, in his words, to give the audience something real. However, what happens soon after that is, as you alluded to, he goes on tour with Jenny, leaving his wife and the two girls behind. And so there's this montage of moments in the movie where it's just PT and Jenny kind of doing their thing on the tour. I wanted to ask you about long distance relationships because I know you have experience with that. And so in the movie, we see it too. It's a married couple who is going through this long distance period. But just what's been your experience with long distance relationships? And what are some of the challenges you've seen and some of the successes you've seen uh, in the long distance part of the relationships you've had?
I think long distance relationship is boring. Straight up
Yeah.
boring.
Okay.
It's not fun to have a long distance relationship. Even when me and my husband got married, we never wanted to be apart from each other. Even with our situation back home in the islands, working is not good. So people would think to go overseas here to New Zealand to find work, but that wasn't something for us to inquire for my husband to come work here and me over there. But we had our distant relationship. We learned it when we were still dating. That wasn't fun for us. We missed each other so much that we don't want to be apart for that distance or for that long again. So we learned our lesson. Never do that again.
Were you two in different countries?
Yeah, he was. I was here and he was in Tonga in the
How long were
kingdom.
you two apart?
Almost 6 months
6 months.
when we were still dating.
Was there anything that either you did to help with that?
Just constantly calling each other and constantly giving encouraging messages throughout the day. Even when he goes to work, he would send me a message of reminding his love for me. Just these little things that makes the relationship, the distant relationship, uh, not so hard.
What do you think was the hardest thing about those 6 months?
Not being able to see each other. That's the hardest part of the 6 months, not being able to see each other for that long,
Have you had any experiences like that since you've been married, or is that just when you were dating?
just in our dating.
Even in the movie, when P.T. Barnum and Charity are children, they have some moments of communicating long distance because
Mm,
she goes off to like boarding school or she goes off to education somewhere. And in this era, there's no cell phones. We're talking like the 1800s, or so when this movie takes place. There's no cell phones. There's no Facebook Messenger, right? Like you had mentioned, it shows them writing letters to each
yeah.
other. And this is as they were children. But I liked that moment because, yes, it was a different time period, but it shows what you just talked about, which was the effort in trying to stay connected, in making each other know that you're thinking about them, that you're caring about them, that you're loving them. And so, even though it's so hard and so challenging, taking those steps, um, like we see in the movie, like you shared with your personal story, I think is just so huge to really try and make the best of a difficult situation.
Mm,
As the film nears the end, everything appears to be unraveling, uh, which includes the family. They get evicted from their dream home,
mm,
right? They've kind of had this dream home since they were kids. And then there's a moment in there where, to me, it's one of the most powerful lines of the entire film is when Charity says, when she finds out about this, I never minded the risk, but we always did it together, which to me implies kind of a lack of communication as the film continues. Do you have any things that you feel are some good communication rules for couples in committed relationships?
when you feel like as a spouse that you don't wait for you to struggle a lot, then you can share with your partner. No, when you feel like you have something doubts or you feel like you're just down, just share with your partner because uh, you both are inspired for each other to feel what the other person feel, and the other person can feel what the other spouse feel. But when you follow that instinct uh, to say what you need to say to your partner or say an encouraged thing to them, that can help the relationship feel more easy for both of them.
Yeah. Yeah, so true. And you mentioned it a few times, I think, as we've talked today on how important communication is. And that's another good example there on the importance of good communication, whether you're in a long distance relationship or you're living in the same house. Let's talk about the music in this movie because the songs are. Do you have a favorite song in the movie?
The one by Jenny Lin.
Oh, that one
Yeah.
is Never Enough. Never Enough. Why do you like that one so
Yes.
much?
Just love the lyrics. Can relate more to the lyrics of the songs.
I have some of the lyrics up here. Let me
Yes.
pull them up because that is one of my personal favorites. And it's hard to pick a favorite song because the music is just so good
Yeah.
throughout the movie. But here are some of the lyrics of Never Enough. And this is the Jenny Lin song. She starts out by saying, I'm trying to hold my breath. Let it stay this way. Can't let this moment end. You set off a dream in me. And then she continues on with all the shine of 1,000 spotlights, all the stars we steal from the night sky will never be enough. And some of my favorite songs in the movie, that one's definitely up there. I also love A Million Dreams, which I mentioned.
Mm.
Yep, that's the one kind of early on in the film when they're showing the crash course of their relationship at the beginning of it. And going through some hard times. Some of my favorite lines in that song. They can say it all sounds crazy. They can say I've lost my mind. My kids say I'm crazy. Maybe that's why I like those words. because my kids say I'm crazy, and so I feel like I can relate to that song. I also love it too because it's a song of like having a vision. I
Mm.
feel like P.T. Barnum in this movie is such a dreamer,
Yes, yes.
but the best thing to me about that is he pursues them. Like he doesn't just leave the dreams and the vision in his head. He's like, I have a million dreams. I'm going to make it happen. I love that message from this song and from the movie. Do you remember the song in the movie The Other Side, which is the one with Zac Efron's character and Hugh Jackman's character? They're in the bar.
Yes.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. He's trying to kind of they're compromising. He's trying to persuade the Zac Efron character to join him and join his circus,
Yeah.
and they're going back and forth. And there's the bartender there. Yeah, I think that's like one of my favorite moments. Such a good song. Another song I love is at the end of the movie.
Mm.
It's the song "From Now On."
Yeah.
Yeah, because this song comes into the movie in the moment of P.T. Barnum is apologizing
Mm.
to his wife Charity about the mistakes he's made, and to me the message of "from now on" is him saying, "From now on, I'm going to learn from my past mistakes." Right? From now on, I'm going to try and be a better person to you, the man you married. And I love the message and behind that song in this film as well. Before we stop talking about songs, though, I have to ask you about this song because this song I think is probably the most well-known song in the movie. We haven't even talked about it yet. This Is Me. Do you have any thoughts about that song?
I think I liked the song and the lyrics and how they sang it just because they embraced their differences as the whole circus people. They embraced their differences and not being able to worry about other people's opinion, but that's who they are. They can't change it. And that's a lesson to learn from is that we can accept ourselves.
Each song in the movie has such a powerful message, whether it's A Million Dreams, Never Enough, From Now On, This Is Me. And yes, it sounds amazing. It's performed well, but the messaging behind each song, I think, is really what makes me love it even more. And you're right, This Is Me, a song about, being comfortable with who you are and not letting others break you down. That's one of the lines in the song is, right, I won't let them break me down to dust. And yeah, again, just powerful messages throughout this movie. And I love the soundtrack. I've got the soundtrack probably in my car right now. And that's one that you can just listen to and repeat because it's so good. So yeah. And my girl, speaking of the girls, my kids, especially my girls, love it. Um, one of my girls, Lila, she sang one of the songs in a choir concert. I want to say last year. I can't remember what song it was, but yeah, one of the songs we kept listening to it because she had it. It was
Mm.
in the choir program, and it was a fun time. Yeah, awesome, good stuff. Well, let's continue on now to the segment called "Date That Movie," a chance we each share a date idea that we've been inspired to from this movie to give all the listeners, as well as us, fresh, creative, different types of date ideas. A couple of ideas I had as I was thinking about The Greatest Showman. An obvious one that stands out to me is going to the circus.
Mm.
I think that sounds like fun. I haven't been to the circus in so long, I can't remember the circus because it's been that long since I think I've been to one when I was a kid, maybe once. Don't remember it. There's also moments in the movie where they're at like a beach. So having a beach date, I think, could be a fun date idea. And then my third idea is thinking about P.T. Barnum and Charity and how early in the movie they didn't have any wealth, they didn't have a lot of money. And so I would suggest doing a date where it was spontaneous but also inexpensive, and kind of finding a way to kind of combine some of those things together, to come up with a fun and creative but inexpensive day idea. Because Charity, especially in the movie, she's always focused on the importance of having quality time together, and
Yeah.
quality time doesn't have to be expensive,
Mm.
right? She's all about, this is happiness, because as long as we're together, that's what happiness is for her. Dates are about time more than about money. So
Mm.
finding things that you enjoy together, that whether it's at home or doing something simple,
Mm.
I think is a good message in terms of dating that we could take away from this film too.
Yeah. And I think, like what you said, dating doesn't have to be expensive stuff. You can just homemade, like the part where he came back from work and the Charity is up there with the kids doing the laundry and stuff, and eventually they played with the lights. That's one of the ways you can do dating is just set up at home, and that's gonna be the wife's effort on decorating that home with date scene for the whole family, and that's good for kids too, not just for both of you, but that's a date for all the families.
Last thing I want to do before we wrap up is a segment, Kesikava, that I like to call lights, camera, action, meaning just kind of the spirit of showbiz and the premise behind Date Like the Movies, asking each of us to come up with an action or something that our listeners, each of us, can apply to our own relationship endeavors that we can learn from this film. Anything that comes to mind for you for a takeaway or an action item from The Greatest Showman?
Mm. Just appreciate every effort your partner makes to make the family happy or provide for the family. Make the effort to be grateful for it. Show that gratefulness for them because it gives them that energy to keep going and keep striving for your relationship and your family. But that's very important for us as a couple to always support, be the supportive spouse for each other, and don't always look for the mistakes. Always look for the good in them. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it.
that is an awesome message, because appreciation is huge. Like you said, appreciate the effort that each other is making. And then you kind of talked about, you stole my idea, because my idea was going back to the support of, I feel like in a really good, successful, healthy relationship, you are the biggest support of each other, right? And so if a husband, his wife should be his top hype girl, like the best hype or the best supporter in his life should be his wife, and then the opposite should be true as well, where he should be the biggest supporter for her. And so I think that's my main action and takeaway here is, yeah, strive to be the biggest supporter for each other, and I think it'll
Yeah,
go a long way in a relationship. Kesikava, thanks so much for joining me
thank you.
here on. Yeah, it was great to have you all the way from New Zealand, from the future, as you like to say. Thanks again to you. Thanks to our listeners for tuning in. Once again, remember to like, subscribe, share this episode. I really appreciate it. And until next time, my friends, keep dating. Thanks so much.